Yeah, let's bring in Congresswoman Liz Cheney, now chairman of the House GOP conference member and a member of the House Armed Services Committee, who won her primary last night. Expected to walk right away with that. Turned down a run at the Senate. Congresswoman, welcome back. We got to bring you to foreign policy. It runs in your blood that you're an expert in that area. Here's what John Kerry decided to do with his time.
For the 8 years of the Obama-Biden administration, we led by example. We eliminated the threat of an Iran with a nuclear weapon. We built a 68-nation coalition to destroy ISIS. We forged a 195-nation agreement to attack climate change. We stopped Ebola before it became a pandemic. Donald Trump inherited a growing economy and a more peaceful world. And like everything else he inherited, he bankrupted it. When this president goes overseas, it isn't a goodwill mission, it's a blooper reel.
Really? Very interesting. So, Congresswoman, she wants to point out the Iran deal, the Paris climate change, and how he reacted after they created ISIS by leaving Iraq. Your witness.
Well, my gosh. I mean, I'm sorry, but I am still stuck on Bill Clinton calling the Oval Office a command center. That's not what I think of when I think of Bill Clinton.
We all had to pause for that.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But John Kerry, don't forget, John Kerry was the architect of the Iran deal. The Iran deal, which had absolutely no verification mechanisms in it, which gave the Iranians a pathway towards a nuclear weapon. And not only that, but John Kerry then traveled around the world acting as the head of the Chamber of Commerce for the mullahs in Iran, trying to get investment money into Iran. Right. What President Trump has done is absolutely the opposite. He has said we're not going to be part of a deal that gives us false comfort and gives the mullahs a pathway to a bomb. We're going to impose strict sanctions. We're going to have a maximum pressure campaign. It is exactly the opposite of the disastrous policies of the Obama-Biden years. And John Kerry, you know, is an example of the failed past. And I'm frankly pretty surprised that the Democrats have chosen to highlight so many of the failed leaders of the past at their convention this week.
Well, more tonight and tomorrow as well. Congressman, the number one issue facing America right now, obviously the coronavirus. When the coronavirus really hit and we realized things are going to have to get shut down for a while, the stock market absolutely tanked. Yesterday marked the end of the shortest bear market in history because, just like the president said, it was going to be a V. It went down and it has gone clear back up. It's right on the edge of record highs as well. And one of the things the Democrats for the last couple of months have thought, okay, Donald Trump's not going to have the economy to run on. But right now, aside from the unemployment, which is still staggering, the economy is doing okay.
Well, look, and I think it's absolutely clear to the American people, you know, the Democrats have combined the failed policies of the past with this fraud of socialism that they see as our future. And if the Democrats prevail, we will not have an economic recovery. Every single policy that they've put forward is one that will make it much, much more difficult for us to recover from the pandemic, to get the economy back going again where we need it to be. The economic policies that we've seen from President Trump and from the Republicans in the House and the Senate over the course of the last 3.5 years, the cuts in regulation, the cuts in taxes, those are the kinds of things that we've got to see to bring this economy back again, to get people back to work. Socialism, which is the promise of Bernie Sanders and AOC, they have a chokehold on the Democratic platform, on Joe Biden's policies going forward. They're the ones that will be setting the policy into the future. That will be an absolute devastation for this country.
So also yesterday, the president was speaking on the border in Arizona while the DNC was having night two. And the president said that Bernie Sanders is actually the real boss of the party. And then Bernie said at the DNC, basically, get us to Washington, then we'll define the party and which direction we're going to go in. Listen to these two sound bites.
Joe Biden is the puppet of the radical left-wing movement that I guess his new boss is Bernie Sanders. Can you believe that?
Our job is, the day after Biden is elected, is to mobilize our people in the fight for a progressive agenda. If we can elect Biden, if we can turn the U.S. Senate Democrat, if we can retain Democratic control in the House, there is a path open for us to really bring about transformative change in this country.
Liz, what's your reaction to that?
Look, the Bernie Sanders, AOC, Joe Biden, they are advocating the quicksand of socialism. They will absolutely sink and devastate this nation. And they talk about giving power to the people. You know, Kamala Harris's slogan of "for the people." Every time I hear that, I remember what they actually are doing is taking power from the people and giving it to the government. They're taking freedom. Socialism doesn't work. It has never worked. It will drive this nation into the ground. And it's crucially important that we don't give them the opportunity to do that this fall. I think that the president being at the border reminded people once again, for example, of how important it is to secure the border, but also that the Democrats want to use taxpayer funds to give health care, free health care to illegal immigrants that come across the border. Those kinds of programs would absolutely be devastating. We've got to get the economy growing again, and the Democrats are not the solution to that.
And then they'll go to college for free right after. It'll be a great plan.
Right.
And it's just unbelievable that John
Exactly.
Kerry, the man who brought James Taylor to sing "You Got a Friend" to France,
It's ridiculous.
who falls off a bike,
Yeah, I like the
talks
song.
about bloopers. It is a good song, but I don't think France needed
right.
that. And plus, they speak French. They didn't know what he was talking about.
Don't forget John Kerry windsurfing. That was a key ad that I recall.
That
I mean,
worked well
it's,
for him. Then he went hunting.
Exactly.
It went great. Hey, Liz, congratulations on you. I'm sorry, Congressman. Congratulations on your win in the
thank
primary.
you.
Not a surprise, but is there a strategy to win back the House? All I hear about is Republicans talking about holding the Senate. Democrats talking about taking the Senate. I don't hear about a plan to take back the House. Is there one?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, we have amazing candidates all across the country. You guys had Sean Parnell on just a little while ago. Tremendous candidates. And the Democrats, there's something that is similar between Joe Biden and his method of campaigning and what we're seeing from vulnerable Democratic House members across the country. And that is that they're in hiding. They cannot go back to their constituents and their districts and talk about anything that they've accomplished because Speaker Pelosi has fundamentally failed to lead. They do not want to have to describe that back home. We feel really good about our chances to take a message to the American people that we are the party that's going to bring back economic recovery, that's going to bring back national security, defeat this virus, get the economy going.
Congressman, before you go, since this is kind of the post-game show for the DNC for last night, is there anything you have seen so far that you would like the Republicans to do next week, or something you would like to see them do that they haven't done so far by the Democrats?
Well, I can guarantee you that our convention next week is going to surpass viewership. It's going to surpass inspiration.
How are you
it's
going to
surpass
do it?
everything that you've seen this week. And listen, I mean, you know, I got to hand it to Rhode Island for the calamari, but I'll just say, just wait. Ours is going to be the best you've ever seen.
Stand by for the appetizer.
We saw Colin Powell.
That's right.
We saw Colin Powell endorse again another Democrat. Is your dad going to endorse the president?
Listen, Colin Powell has been a Democrat for as long as I can remember, frankly, since the Gulf War. So I don't see that as any big surprise there.
Your dad going to endorse the president?
No. Yeah, my dad has always supported the nominee of our party, and I'm confident he'll do so this time around. And had a great event for the president here in Jackson Hole last summer, helping raise money for him and for the RNC. So we're looking forward to a great next week and to a great November victory.
All right. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us.